Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, my brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good.
Well, this is good. That discussion you started the other day, man, that could have got interesting. We might talk about that a little bit this morning because
Okay.
it bleeds into economics at the highest and the lowest level.
Right. Right. Yes, sir. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I had never considered that. So, you can't always go on, just what mainstream media talks about.
Well, I mean, mainstream media has been talking about the budget deficit since I was in college.
Well, not the
I mean,
budget,
the
but
debt, the overall debt of the
yeah,
country. They've been talking about that since I was in college. I mean, it was in economics class. I can remember sitting in economics class and the professor basically, this is like in 1977,
hmm
professors talking about money running out of certain programs, inability to even fund the Defense Department, different things like that in
right,
1977, almost 50 years ago. So this discussion and how you deal with it has been going on for a long time.
right, right,
And if you remember in the 1990s, and there's always funny numbers involved in how you account for this and account for that, but supposedly during the Clinton administration, we got to the point that we had started a move toward um, taking in more money than we spent, basically.
right.
And it wasn't really 100% true because they took certain items out of the budget and said these numbers shouldn't count, like Social Security, for example. Social Security is not really supposed to be a budget item, right? Or count against the national debt because it's supposed to be funded 100% from the money that we're taking in through Social Security taxes. But the United States Treasury, in all of their wonderful wisdom, they actually use that money sometimes for other things.
hmm
They don't keep it separate.
Right.
And that's part of the reason we have the issue with Social Security that we have now. So, just accounting tricks that the government uses and things like that that we don't 100% know exactly where we are. But they use it politically to do certain things like cut programs and different things like that.
hmm
So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to hear other people's take on it too, and how you, because I have my own ideas on how you go about solving problem.
Right. That's true. Well, and to break it down on the individual level, we have to have our own austerity program,
Exactly. Yeah,
something that the U.S. government and the system fails to realize or care about, really.
yeah. It'd be more that they don't care about it. It's too small. It falls under their radar, as people like to say. That you lessen your dependence on them to the extent that now they wonder how in the world are you advancing while they're trying to undercut you,
Right.
which even though it's not probably documented extremely well to the African American family since Reconstruction, that's basically what we've been doing.
I guess. I guess.
but we don't have it in a system. It's not, I guess it's passed, certain things are passed down within certain families, but definitely not passed down through all families and through all communities.
Oh, hold on one second, man. I got somebody calling me. Right.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Omar.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. How have you been? We've missed you the last couple of weeks.
Yes, my mother had hip surgery 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
So I
Okay.
went up there and spent some time with her to make sure she got settled. And then last weekend, um, I was presenting at a conference. So that was, I thought it ended Sunday, but she had it where it was ending on Monday. So
Okay.
she worked us all the way from Friday to Monday. So unfortunately, I was unable to sign on last
No,
Sunday as well.
that's good. Do you remember getting an email from me regarding the state employees credit union in North Carolina?
Let me, I did remember seeing a few emails come across, but I did not pay particular attention to it. I can go
Okay.
back in and look at it.
Okay. Yeah, there was a lady there. She's with a particular program of theirs. So I had reached out to I think North Carolina Press Association Credit Union. I sent an email to
Okay.
them because they're on that list, right? Of
Yes.
either A-link credit unions or whatever we want to characterize them as. And
Right.
they have actually been swallowed up, let's say, by the state employees credit union in North Carolina.
Gotcha.
So the lady from State Employees Credit Union emailed me back. They're interested. She visited our website. She saw the
Oh,
stuff that we've
okay.
been doing with financial literacy, financial education, the financial freedom program, and she's interested in talking to us about that. So I thought you would
Okay.
be the better person to set a brief conversation up with her. Yeah,
Sure.
so just if you find that email, you'll find her information. If you don't, I will definitely obviously resend the information, that email to
Yeah,
you.
let me look for it now. Let me look for it now.
Okay. And it's probably 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
roughly.
Q-tip trust. Oh no, that was something else.
Yeah, that Q-tip was with something Imam Talib brought up, and I did a little research on
Okay.
for estate planning.
What I'm missing?
Well, Omar is looking for an email that
Assalamu
I
alaikum, Omar.
sent,
Oh, walaikum assalam. How you?
All right, brother.
and I will look for it for the date also, Omar. I haven't done that
Okay.
yet. If I can
Okay.
remember when I sent that to you.
Okay. All right. I got it. I got it.
Oh, you found it.
From
Okay.
NCPA FCU.
Well, that was what I sent to them. You probably have to
Okay.
scroll down to the email that she sent back to me
Okay. Rachel
from,
is her name.
I believe you're correct,
Okay.
SECU. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I got it.
Okay.
Okay. I will reach out to her.
Thank you. Right. Imam Adam, if you would please, it's 15 after. Go ahead and open this up, and hopefully we'll have a few people trickling in as we get started in our conversation this morning.
Yes, sir. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
I mean, so Omar, before you came on, Adam and I were talking briefly about a discussion that Adam started this week. I think it was remarks of a retired U.S. general about the budget deficit in the United States and what that might mean for future investment. In other words, foreign currency flowing into the United States, which we obviously, the country uses as a means of paying for a lot of military spending that we have, social spending that we have. It's kind of one of the big underpinnings, obviously, along with the tax base of an investment income that our Treasury Department makes, of keeping all of our infrastructure somewhat up to date, and obviously keeping a very strong military, and allowing us as a country to be, I think, what's the term they like to use? Expeditionary. In other words, being able to go to other parts of the world and have a very strong influence. A part of that is underpinned by other people's money, other countries' money. So I don't remember the exact thing that the general said, but it had something to do with interest rates going above 5% and that putting pressure on the United States to be able to actually pay that money when that money is due to those foreign, basically lenders. If you're buying, they're buying US debt, we owe them money, of being able to pay them back. And
Or
go ahead, Adam.
not necessarily paying them back, but he said the term he used was servicing the debt,
Right.
which
Well,
is
yeah, so which is
which is
paying
paying the
the
interest.
paying the interest on the debt. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a double-edged sword, right? If you have a good reputation and throughout the roughly 250 years of this country's existence, for more than 200 years, the United States of America has had the best reputation by far of being able to repay a debt. That's why at one point in time, probably 80% or more of foreign currencies in the world that were free to be placed somewhere were placed in the United States of America's treasuries. 4 out of every $5, let's say, we're going to do the conversion, of foreign government money, huge private individual money, 4 out of 5 of those dollars were in the United States Treasury. That's probably somewhere now down around between 3 and 3.5 of every dollar, whatever, however you want to say that, is in United States Treasuries. And typically the more unstable the world is, the more money flows into United States Treasuries because it's considered to be the safest place to put your money if you now want, at some point in time, you want your money back. So if the United States Treasury is paying higher interest, then obviously it attracts more money. If you're going to offer me 6% and somebody else is offering me 4%, I'm probably going to take the 6, all things being equal, all other things being equal. But that puts tremendous pressure on the United States Treasury, as Adam was saying, as the general said, to pay that interest back, paying a higher rate of interest, just like paying interest on your home. You want to get as low an interest rate as possible. You want less money going to interest and more money going toward actual principal payment. So you can get rid of that entire debt at some point in time. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because majority of people in the world, countries in the world, large corporations, hugely wealthy individuals put their money in United States treasuries. But demographically, the United States has many of the same problems the rest of the world has: aging population, and this whole idea of trying to lower the tax expense of living in the United States on certain groups of people. So we lower the amount of taxes that we collect as a country while still having this huge burden of repaying this foreign debt load and domestic debt load, because a lot of United States citizens own these treasuries as well and are clipping coupons every year, getting interest paid. And the rubber band kind of gets stretched. At what point in time does a rubber band not have any more elasticity and it breaks? I think that was what the general in his statement was getting to, is that how much tension can it stand before it breaks? And then you have chaos. Because if the United States can't pay its debts, you think Brazil can pay theirs? Think India can pay theirs? You think New Zealand's going to be able to pay theirs? Then it just becomes where does it stop? So, I mean, to a certain extent, there used to be this argument about corporations, and especially big banks in the United States, too big to fail. We went through that in 08, 09. Too big to fail. Can't let them fail. That's just too much to handle. So we got to prop them up. Does the rest of the world look at the United States like that? There's no way in the world we can allow the United States government to default. Short term, long term, whatever, we've got to put enough money to underpin the United States so they don't default while they get their act together. Or is China over there saying, well, we got the renminbi. You guys can come increase your foreign investment in our renminbi. You don't have to put your money in the United States. We'll pay your money back. Well, foreign investment in Chinese renminbi, their treasury, so to speak, is about 5% of foreign investment in the world. Because truth be told, most of the world doesn't trust the Chinese. They don't mind the Chinese manufacturing goods for them, but they don't trust the Chinese government. Our problem is with our current administration, people are starting not to trust us to be people of our word.
Exactly. Let me say, now, the discussion that I mentioned was in reference to winning the war. And the amount of our weaponry that had been expended that had to be replaced. And in order to replace it, you got to do what the head scratcher is doing right now, had been doing, trying to get a big budget appealed or passed, right? What was it?
95 million, I think billion is what he's asking
Billion,
for.
yeah, it is
$95 billion.
in billions, right?
Right.
Trying to get them to allocate that much money to the war machine. So the question is, where's the money coming from? Well, they say, well, I guess they're going to issue more debt. And that's going to put a further strain on our economy. And that's what the crux of this discussion was.
Right.
How these things, what do you say?
No, I was agreeing with him. That is, Congress has that hot potato in their hands right now as to whether or not they're going to approve those extra expenditures.
So the question is, I think didn't the House pass something?
The House passed it. It was very close. I think they passed it by 4 or 5 votes.
Right. Now it's at the Senate.
Now it goes to the Senate where it faces a much tougher fight in the Senate.
Right.
Because it's an election year. We're 100 days, as today, we're 100 days away from the midterm elections.
Right.
A lot of politicians don't want to be holding on to the fact that they voted for all this additional spending on a war that nobody wants. And that is going to put extra pressure on all kinds of programs within the United States that need to be paid for that are not being paid for, not being adequately paid for, adequately serviced. I mean, lots of different things. We could talk all day about all the different things that have been cut or diminished or whatever. So, yeah, that's a hot potato issue. And how do you get, if you're the United States military and you're shooting $1 million rockets at $20,000 drones, how do you keep doing that?
Now,
How do you keep justifying it?
and keep also in mind, in that same bill, someone threw in the bill that Israel becomes a part of our defense structure,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
which makes it a further hot potato.
Right.
And that they would have advisory position on what the Pentagon does,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So if that shows the weakness of the dilemma of the Democratic Party because they take so much APAC money that if they don't do it, they lose that support.
Right.
And Lord, our African American representatives in Congress, Lord have mercy.
They're very kosher. A lot of them are very kosher.
Well, they going for the money, brother.
Of
They,
course they
they
are.
they bought and paid for,
Right.
bought and paid for. So much so that, and this is a different matter in my state party, I'm working with the party, but now I'm critical of the party because not just where they stand on um, national issues, what they stand on statewide issues. And it's not APAC that's buying them, it's other people that's buying them.
Hmm.
So that's why I always say they can go into Raleigh or go into wherever representing our people, and I give them 6 months before they represent other people because we don't give them no money. We don't support them. Anyway, I don't want to move it off of that, but that doesn't affect national economy well, but it definitely affects as African Americans our state economy and how it affects us as a people because we Lord have mercy. All right.
Yeah. I mean, the big, the bigger thing, I mean, at least down here on the ground, is lack of education. There's too many people who don't understand the process and how it affects all the different aspects of their life. And not only their life individually, but family members, friends, the communities in which they live. It's incremental creep. Maybe it doesn't hit you directly, but it hits other people directly, and the way that it affects them affects you.
Right.
And you don't start caring about it until it starts affecting you. Or there are other people who are two or three, say, people removed from you who are suffering. Until it gets to you, you don't care. And that's simply a full, just lack of education, understanding of how our country works and functions and how communities function, how communities stay healthy. And in some cases, it is simply a lack of people don't care until it's about them. And by the time you start seeing the rot on your feet, it's too late. You should have cared when somebody else was hurting. Because when your feet start rotting, mm-mm, it's over. But we don't, I mean, somebody asked a question on one of our AM 360 programs, here in the last 10 days or so about whether or not we actually even have civics classes in schools anymore. I mean, just a beginning basic understanding of the underpinnings of our so-called democratic republic and how it works and how things get done, even roads get built. And if we're not even doing that basic stuff, excuse me, then you have a lot of people walking around in their own bubble. They don't understand how things connect. I just put gas in my car. I must be okay. It's just, it goes back to the whole disconnect thing that I talk too much about, of us being so disconnected from each other that, again, you don't notice that your neighbor's house is on fire until the embers jump over onto your roof. And when that happens, it's too freaking late to start caring. But that is, don't want to hear about it. People all the time put the hand up. No, no, no. That have nothing to do with me. I don't care. I don't hear about it. It's ridiculous. So we can talk more about that if you guys want to, but Imam Talib is here. And Imam Talib also sent something out this week. It's a businessman. And I want to say, I think he's in the Los Angeles area. In fact, I think he started in Compton, real estate guy. And basically didn't go to college, had probably had the opportunity, could have gone to college. Other things impeded that. He went into business for himself. And he's built a relatively impressive business empire. And his thing now, this guy's about, I think he's late 50s, early 60s, is about empowering African American entrepreneurship and starting not one, I'm going to be a little LeBron here, not one, not two, not 100, not 1,000, but millions of Black businesses. And his role in it is to kind of be, what did he call himself? The Federal Reserve or something like that of the community. He's going to help fund some of this stuff, right? And guide it. So comment a little bit more on that whole thing, Imam Talib.
Well, first of all, when I read it, I had to actually go and look up what the Federal Reserve is. I mean, we hear the language. We know what federal is. We know what reserve is. But when you put those things together, it's not what we think it is. And one thing that was explained, and I don't know whether he was explaining it or whether or not this was part of the research that I did, but the Federal Reserve has nothing to do with the federal government any more than Federal Express has anything to do with the federal government. It's just a name that's being used. And from my research, what I understand is the Federal Reserve is actually made up of the large banks, the J.P. Morgan Chases, the Bank of Americas, even some financial institutions that you and I have never heard of, or at least I haven't heard of. It does sound like something that, as Graceline, I would be interested in seeing where we could fit in with the various programs that we're trying to get off the ground, or those that we've already had some success with. I'm parsing these words in terms of some success because we are living in a world. If your stuff hasn't gone viral, and everybody's talking about it and everybody's writing about it, then somehow it doesn't have value. But I have found that this group has always placed its value on those things in which it's accomplished. And I think we have accomplished quite a bit. I would also tell you that we are dealing with a brother that's at the right age with the right experience in order to pull this off. But I would encourage us not to sleep on it. That to the extent we can, whether individually or as a group, I'd like to see us involved on the ground floor. At the point that he's trying to launch this. And I think what he may be looking for are people like us who are thinking like he is and are ready to bring whatever expertise we have to the table. It doesn't sound to me, now, I stand to be corrected. This sounds like a program that he is initiating independent of any masjid. It doesn't appear to me that he's waiting for permission to do anything. This is going to happen whether it's sanctioned by a resident imam or a masjid community. I don't know if everyone has had the opportunity. In fact, I'm looking for it now, so that I can send it out to everybody. Did anyone else see it? Because I think it was it Omar? Did you send it to us?
No,
It
no.
wasn't you. Okay. But anyway, it was sent this past Thursday. And I'm going to, let me see if I can, I'm going to send it. Let's see. Can I do? I just sent it. I just sent it out again. It's a reel, a Facebook reel. Edward, did you send this?
I did not send it. I was the recipient.
Okay. All right. So, man, I've been so busy. But I would encourage us to listen to him. It's Operation Hope, Operation Hope Incorporated. If folk, in fact, I think it was, I think it was, I think I did send it out. Someone sent something to me, not this, but as I was scrolling, I saw this, and this is a brother that someone was interviewing him, and he was asked what's next for him, and his response was, "I want to be the Federal Reserve of the hood." And as I said, I had to go look up to see what the Federal Reserve was, because I'm thinking it's a government agency, but it's not. But he's looking to fund people that want to go into business. And I mean, I applaud him for it. And when I have the opportunity, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to reach out to Operation Hope. And should I reach anyone, or should I reach him or anyone involved in this new endeavor, I hope to have an opportunity to be able to invite them to one of our meetings and report back to us what the conversation was like and just how we may be able to help. But I do feel like this is something that that we could get involved in. And there may even be an opportunity, if he's going to be investing in businesses. I mean, a credit union is a business. And so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself or have us get too far ahead of ourselves. But this sounds like another opportunity that we can take advantage of, just as we've done in the past, as we've been building Graceline from the ground up, being that trusted financial freedom group that is going to help people. I think we've done all that we could, and it's real unfortunate that I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I've been thinking it and I need to get it out. Edward spoke earlier as he was closing out the last session that we had about education being sorely absent from the majority of people, in the world, or let's not even go that far, just in this country, as to how things that happen on an international level affect us here at home. I would apply that same lack of knowledge and lack of education to our masjid communities around the country. that we are always going begging hat in hand from people who really don't have it to give, because we only beg from each other. Every community that I know of, and if I am incorrect in what I'm going to say, please correct me so that I don't go out and say it someplace and embarrass myself. But I'm not aware of any community that's associated with Imam W.D. Muhammad that is self-sustaining. That is, it does not have to do fundraisers in order to pay its taxes, or constantly putting on some program where the community is being asked to contribute. And all of this is in addition to zakat and sadaqah. We continue to not understand that masjids cannot sustain themselves on zakat and sadaqah alone. That there needs to be some earning capital on a daily basis, maybe even while you are asleep. Money is being made that flows into our community, where zakat and sadaqah becomes no more than savings that we use in order to help members of the community. But this is a worn out, tired game that we keep playing with each other, that today's economy is going to wake us up. I mean, we're going to have to be shaken. And I was just thinking this morning, trying to put some thoughts together that I've been having for months, that if someone was to give any one of our masjid communities millions of dollars, I don't believe there's one community that would know what to do with it. I really don't. I'm not aware of one that would know what to do if they receive, and the thought was coming, these thoughts were coming based on the work that I've been doing with these, with these wills and financial powers of attorney. And I'm running across more and more seniors who have survived pretty much all of their family members. They own their own home, no mortgage on it. And I've heard some of them say that they would like to give the property or the proceeds from the sale of the property to the community, to the masjid. And I have been hesitant. And I'm not a person to stutter, but I find myself even stuttering, recommending to a brother or a sister that they leave their home to whatever masjid they may belong to. Because I'm sure to a certainty that they're not going to know what to do with that money, or when they get it, they're going to blow it on something that is not sustainable. It's like somebody that hits the lottery for maybe $50,000, and the first thing they do is go out and buy a car. Not a car because they need it, a car because they want it. And it reminds me, and I used to, at one time I had the surah and the ayat committed to memory. For some reason, I want to tell you, if I'm wrong about this, forgive me, but for some reason, I think it's in Al-Nisa, Surah 4, ayat 65, where Allah talks about the orphan and releasing their property. And it tells the person who's holding it to release it essentially to release it if you find that they're ready to receive it. And it talks about the person who's been holding it. If you are wanting, that is, you're not a person who's well off, Allah even invites them to take something for their efforts and turn the rest of it over to the orphan if you think the orphan is ready to receive it. If you don't, then you hold on to it until they are ready. And I'm telling you now, I don't know a community that's ready. When first thing they'll do, what some of them will do if they come across this money, is they want to add some more space onto the masjid. For what? If you're not adding on something to your masjid that's going to help sustain it for an institutional period, meaning it's perpetual, that it will never die. If you're not doing that, you're just jacking off money. And you won't see any benefit from it. You got a masjid and what? You want to add on a banquet hall. Okay, that's a good idea. Add a banquet hall. But when you add the banquet hall, have people in place who can run the banquet hall. Why? Because there are going to be people all around the area where you live that are looking for a small banquet hall where they can have weddings. And you can set the tone in those places because you are a Muslim community. People want to have banquets. They want to have parties for their children where no alcohol is being served. And you will be that institution. There are other types of operations that you could manage that are going to help that community be self-sustaining. The whole country needs daycare centers. I don't know of a daycare center in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area that takes up D.C., Maryland, and Virginia that has ever failed. There's been a woman who has been pressing me to rent my building at $9,000 a month, because I told her it wasn't going to be no less than that. $9,000 a month in order to open up a fourth daycare center. She has one 2 doors from me. She has one at home. She has another one on Georgia Avenue. And she has been pressing me to rent the space to her so that she can open up a fourth one. She might even own more than 4 for all I know. But these are the types of things. And Sister Khalidah, I see your hand, and I'm going to finish now so that you can please go ahead with your comment.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. To everyone, I was just really elated by what you're saying because that was one of the things that were on the table for our masjid for so long. Because we don't have room, and we don't want we have we have a combined Juma, and we have a lot of our immigrant brothers and sisters that also come over, and our African brothers and sisters, because we're all Muslim. And for decades, we've been saying we need to push that wall out. But my understanding is they can't just push the wall out. But like you're saying, we have 8 acres that's been paid off, and we need people like with your mindset to come into these strategic planning meetings when they're going back and forth on what to build first, whether we build a multi-purpose center, whether we build a school, whether we take some of the land for a graveyard, and we get good, we sound good, we come up with a solution, and then we start all over again, sending out surveys. So we have issues that we need leadership in that area. And I'll stop there.
Right. No, and that's you are absolutely correct. And it is this brother that is talking about being the Federal Reserve of the hood, that I'm going to be looking for some direction and leadership from him that I can bring back to us. Because I mean, listen, the only real thing that I have left to give to any community, whether it's a Muslim community or just outside of just my own neighborhood, is the experiences that I've had, and those that Allah continues to show me, as long as I'm on this side of the dirt. Is there a possibility I could start another business? Yes, there is. That possibility always exists. But right now, I see my role as being more helpful, which is what I'm trying to do. And in fact, I tell you what I will do, because, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but I actually I had this same conversation with the Ali Khan Islamic Center in Suitland, Maryland, that just received, maybe a few months ago, they received 2 acres of land that they did not pay for, with the understanding that within 5 years, they would begin to break ground for a masjid. And I've seen the plans. They have them visible. Anytime you go in. But my conversation with them was, as I looked at the plans, I did not see anything on those plans that talked about anything that was going to sustain that building. There was no daycare. I've been pushing for these masjids to open a commercial kitchen, because everywhere across this country that I know of, if you are a vendor, that is, if you are, you go out on a daily basis to wherever events are, or you have a corner downtown with a truck where you are selling prepared food, your wife or your husband, may be a baker or a sandwich maker. All of those opportunities, you may bake cakes and other pastries. If you sell them to the public, they have to be prepared in a commercial kitchen. When our community concludes Isha prayer, we're closed until Fajr. Why is it that we could not rent out a commercial kitchen from 11 to 5. Because vendors would come, prepare their foods, wrap their packages, do whatever they need to do. We have a stainless steel kitchen that's been approved by the state or by the county or whoever needs to approve it. It serves a double purpose because the other room that you have is the banquet room that Sister Khalidah just mentioned, that the commercial kitchen could be used by caterers, or caterers would want to use your commercial kitchen in order to prepare. Now, everything that I just mentioned to you comes at a cost that people would pay you on a regular basis. I mean, vendors would pay you weekly to be able to use your commercial kitchen. And that's money coming in every week. It's every day, because you could let them use it, when needed. If you've got someone that has a big enough business, they're trying to get that business off the ground. Maybe you set up a monthly contract with them because they don't have the money to set the commercial kitchen up, but you do. Somebody's provided you with the opportunity to do that. And then you won't have to keep begging the community for money, because the money is recyclable. And I don't mean to offend anyone's sensibility, and I'm going to close with this. But this is what we have in our community. Allah forgive me. We have no, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it because I think you all get the point. But this relationship that we have with each other has to stop. Somebody's sponsoring a dinner. You want $150 for chicken and peas. I don't pay $150 for any meal, but I'm going to give you the $150. And I may not even show up. I'm giving it to you to support you. Then the next week, someone is some committee that's a part of the community. They're selling raffle tickets for $10 so that you can get a microwave, so you can get something. But it's the same money that just keeps going back and forth, back and forth. It's all coming from each other. One of the things that I used to love when we were doing fundraisers, and if you look at the souvenir journals, when I was a part of New Africa Islamic Community Center, myself and Imam Sultan Abdullah here in Washington, D.C., we used to put on fundraisers as the New Africa Islamic Community Center at this real nice facility that we also had souvenir journals. And one of the things that I always appreciated about the souvenir journals that we had was that when you flipped through and looked at the ads, the majority of them were not Muslim, because he and I would go out and get ads from people that we were doing business with. I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with you on an annual basis. I want you to take out a full-page ad in my souvenir journal. And they did. So I wasn't going to the community, and I'm going to say this, I wasn't going to the community pimping them, because that's what it is. Our communities are being pimped. Members of the community are being pimped. We keep doing the same thing over and over again, and there has been no improvement. Now, I can't speak for every masjid across the country. I can only speak for those where I have been in attendance. And I'm now going on a tour of every single one of them. And at some point, I'm going to let them all know that you ain't pimping me no more. I'm done. Now, that's a problem. But I'm also going to present them with a solution. And with that, and I'm going to share that solution with you all in writing. And when I do, because I've got it right now, it's just on the back of a receipt that I got. But I'm going to share that with you all because I would like to have you add to it. And I would like to see us start to circulate it amongst our community as a part of Graceline. Because everything I'm talking to you about, it's going to be associated with some entrepreneurial endeavor. Because
but Tyler,
yes,
Tyler,
sir.
we got
Okay,
some
that's
hands
it.
up, brother. We got
Yes,
some
sir.
hands
I'm
up.
sorry. I see a whole bunch of hands up.
Yeah.
Let me shut my mouth. I'm going to put myself on mute.
Yeah, Brother Edward.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really quick because I wanted to kind of correlate the outreach that Imam Talib is interested in doing with Operation Hope, my brother out on the West Coast. Also, in bringing into that particular conversation, us as a group, meaning Graceline Community, gathering more information on another organization within uh, the body of Imam W.D. Muhammad, our community, called the Collective. And I don't know how many people are familiar with the Collective. I've had just very tertiary communication with them. I was invited to participate in a long weekend event that they had outside of Atlanta. I want to say last year. Did not go. But the people who invited me are people that I have respect for. They're business people that are within our community. And because I didn't go, I haven't really stuck my nose in the tent to find out more about them, but I've heard other people mention them in passing. So if we're going to do this outreach, and especially if it's within our community and people of good standing, I think that we should maybe look at the Collective as well as an organization that we can partner with. And as Brother Omar and I were talking about earlier, much earlier in this conversation, we've had some outreach from a very large credit union administration, the State Employees Credit Union for the state of North Carolina has reached out to us about our education programs. And Omar is going to follow up on that. And that might be another avenue for us to start to grow awareness of what we're doing. And it just might help accelerate our outreach into other areas of the country and these initiatives that I think are important for our community. And I will stop with that.
Okay. We got Michael Hamim.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
This is an assessment that I have come to. I really appreciate Imam Talib's perspective, and Sister Khalidah mentioned something that Imam Muhammad gave us years ago, not only for the business community but for our community. We have to be more financially accountable in terms of our dollars. A multi-purpose building, and the Imam mentioned before that, a school building that you could have prayer in. But since education is our number one priority, we have to have leadership, and it doesn't just have to come from quote unquote established leaders or the leaders by I can't think of the word right now, but the other word I'm looking for, among the resourceful people, we need those individuals that have influence, that are informal leaders. There's formal leadership and there's informal leadership. We need those informal leadership to at least speak up in terms of better strategies. Imam Muhammad gave us an expansion of the idea of zakat, because to us, zakat was also connected with fish fries, bean pie sales, and so forth on a small level. But when he gave us the idea of zakat is the Muslim economic system, that expands the idea for the thought leaders to really see, okay, we need to be looking at what Imam Talib is talking about. You know, uh, you have to have a source of income to sustain building a place of worship, or more importantly, a multi-purpose center for education, prayer, business meetings, and so forth. That was the vision that Imam gave to the business people. Before Ben and Jerry's and Dunkin' Donut got together, he was telling Muslim business people to do the same. So I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. I, I just want to add, I guess, a clarifying point. To me, it's a clarifying point to what Imam Talib was saying. And brother, don't be too hard on the people. The reality is,
Yeah.
the reality is, the
You're right.
individual members of the masjid need to pay some money, right? I wouldn't be so quick of saying they're being pimped. I would simply say that the expertise to raise money, other sources of money in the masjids, they're just not there. So all they have is what people got. And they might lack the knowledge of how to. Like what you said about selling ads to your, well, brother, Elias put you in an excellent position to go after your people you do business with. Same with me and my clients, right? I can go after them, hey, help support me on this. Though they might not be Muslim, they'll buy a ticket. But everybody in the masjid don't have that influence. All right. I like your idea about commercial kitchen. When we built our masjid, the first thing we said was we got to have a commercial kitchen. Why? Because we like to eat. And when we leave the masjid, we go to McDonald's, KFC, we take all our funds to those areas. So we said we got to have a commercial kitchen, and we invested probably about $15,000 or more, and this is in 1999, in equipment. And we said we can use that to have our fish fries, or our dinner sales. We can have our in-house banquets, so we won't have to charge $100 for a ticket, because most of the $100 for a ticket is going to rent the spot. You understand? When you go to hotels or places like that, you got to rent the spot. They have to take nice tables. So we did that in our masjid. And our phase 2 was supposed to be the multi-purpose room, and where we also have a room that have schools. We didn't have that many children at Masjid Omar Saeed. So our focus was to provide that. But then we had a young brother and sister that ran the kitchen, right? They had knowledge of that, and they ran the kitchen. But when they left, that knowledge left with them. And so we had people to say that, well, I know how to bake chicken at home, so go to the masjid and bake chicken. But they didn't clean up. I'm not sure how their house looked. I can't speak on that. But they didn't clean up. And so, or they didn't maintain the equipment. So after about 20 years later, 20 some years later, the equipment is shot. And now we got to get some more. So I'm just saying, I'm not going to say that, and I can't speak of other places. I can't speak of maybe places you're familiar with, but I'm not going to say that they're policing the people or beating the people, whatever. Like in North Carolina, I know some nice imams here. I wouldn't go that far saying they're doing that, but they don't have the expertise, or they don't have the people on the floor that have money to be able to do that. So those are things that are happening on that. So I'm not going to say that the leadership is using them or whatever. And for the leadership that might be using them, woe on them for what Allah will bring to them. And if it becomes common knowledge, I think that there are good people in other places that would bring attention to that and come to the rescue of people. I don't know. I might be overly optimistic, but I agree with you. These are things that we need to work on and try to get better at. And so I close out of that. I see.
No, I thank you. I thank you for that. That gave me some clarity, how I need to modify my own speech so that I'm not referring to everyone. And you also gave me some good ideas, couple good ideas that I'm going to incorporate in this in this report I'm going to do. And one of them was that when we have these commercial kitchens, this also becomes an opportunity to start training some of our young people in air conditioning and refrigeration, because those freezers and refrigerators that you have, they're going to break down. And, it would be nice if we had people in the community themselves that we could call on, and not just one, but several. Which also brought up something else you said I made note of, is that as we're building these types of things, we need to bring others along to replace us.
Amen.
So that when that person becomes sick, ill, or Allah calls them home, somebody has already stepped up to take up where they left off. Okay. So I'm not going to start again. I'm going to defer to the other hands I see raised. Alhamdulillah.
I see, Brother Michael, your hands up, brother.
Yeah, I want to yield to Sister Khalidah.
Okay, Sister Khalidah, your hand is up.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. I was thinking about taking inventory of all the masjids who have land. This is been sitting more than 10 years. I know here in Charlotte, we have 8 acres. I know that I don't know if Greenville, North Carolina, they've had land for decades. I don't know what they've done with it, but I know also Statesville, North Carolina, from my understanding, has acres. that they're still going back and forth what to do with that. But if we can have an inventory of who has what, because this is truly Allah's community, we are all going to return to Allah, and we need to be organized in order to be able to really strategically plan for the future and distribute people who have the know-how and educational resources across our community, because that's one of the things that I see, as Imam Adam was saying. I think it was Imam Adam was also saying, and then in addition to that, like organizations as a time to be grateful, they're strong organizations, and we either need to all buy in or all meet and see what we need to do. I know that they bring a lot of money. They have solid followers. I know we were at 80K weeks ago, and their split here is 60-40. So you do benefit as a ummah. And I know it's more than that now, but that was what my imam and his wife openly shared. So there are institutions that we have that we can actually look at improving and see how we can also utilize them as a means to target the communities that need help mostly. Imam Tariq Abdul Mukmin's not on here, but he did tell me about a community recently. I believe it was in Alabama that closed down. They didn't have any successors. Everybody was a pioneer, and nobody was well enough to continue. And so it just folded. So we need to know the demographics also when someone needs to push in or send another imam to another state. Just collaboration and strategic planning on a national basis is what I'm
Now,
emphasizing.
let me ask you a question. You had mentioned, and maybe I missed it, mentioned organizations that have money.
Yes, I was
Are
thinking
they
about a
Muslim?
time.
Is it Muslim organizations?
Yes, I was talking about the Muslim Journal, A Time to Be Grateful is one. But we don't have to
No,
just use
no. Time
ours.
out. Time out. Time out.
But that's the one I was referring to in this
Muslim
statement.
Journal don't have money.
Well, they don't have money, but they're able to bring a lot of people together to come to their conference and spend their money. Like I said, we were already at 80K and we sold out of a lot, and we had to open up a whole nother room. So we need to look at those people who have impact. They definitely have influence, and they definitely have impacts. So we need to look at
Okay.
that,
All right.
inshallah.
Thank you, sister. Appreciate it.
Uh,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, we really need to identify the skill sets that we have and that Allah is sending us. And I'm not a backslapper. I mentioned Brother Omar Muhammad, who's got my attention, and others. Imam Talib-Din, you with the study of Al-Islam connection, you're being seen as someone that has a knowledge skill set to help us. But we have to really reject these foot draggers and showstoppers, you know, and as forceful as they are with their feelings, we have to be, in my opinion, using, as Brother Adams mentions, using proper language. You know, uh, Imam Muhammad told us that, we only have control over ourselves. But for everybody else, family members, wives, spouses, children, we have to negotiate for better behavior. And this is important for us to find the strategic strategies to negotiate to a better position that we're seeking to find. We've got a lot of stuff that cause us to get in our own way. We've all seen this, how we get in our own way. And that makes the journey harder. And the journey that we're on is not a sprint. It's generational. There are going to be several generations before we have a much healthier uh, uh, mindset to apply. We've got a knowledge body and a spirit in Imam Muhammad's knowledge. We have a knowledge body amongst us, uh, like people who have different skill sets, like Brother Edward. We've got a knowledge body, uh, the creative ideas of Brother Adam for helping the schools. We see this showing forth in practical application. We just have to pray for patience and continue to ask for what we need from God. But we have to have the energy to go after it. We just can't pray and fold our hands. We have to go after it. We have to look for what we need, and support. People are going to come after people with the mindset of Brother Omar, brother, brother Edwin, and you, Imam Talib. People are going to have to, and they seek to undermine that spirit of community. And lastly, the Imam told the businessmen and women to make a partner of the Quran, make the Quran your business partner. Well, that needs to be extended to other professional areas, and the reminder of the believers to one another is that we've really got to get more out of what I've come to see as the best practices of the Quran. The guidance gives us what we need. We just need those who can be spiritually in touch with that guidance to extract those best practices. Thank you.
Brother Edward, you back up, man?
Oh, my hand wasn't up, but I'll fill the void very quickly. So there is, earlier in the conversation, I mentioned this whole thing about education. And when I talk about education, I want everybody to realize that I'm not talking just about going to school or going to college or whatever. When I talk about education, there's lots of different forms of education. And depending on who you are as an individual, who you are as a group, that education can take many forms and should take many forms. A few minutes ago, there was a conversation about setting up an industrial commercial kitchen. Well, I mean, obviously you have, as was mentioned, refrigeration, electrician, all that type of stuff. The number of bakers that would then go on to work in restaurants and supermarkets and school kitchens, other hospital institutions, all this stuff around your area, around your state, making, if not six-figure incomes, close to six-figure incomes, and their ability to contribute back to the community that helped them to attain that. Those are kind of visionary things that if you're simply looking at, well, what's it going to cost us to build a commercial kitchen? Then your vision isn't taking you far enough down the road to what that particular investment could create for your community as a whole. And that's an educational issue because it's a mind expansion issue that allows you to extrapolate dollars today into hundreds or thousands of dollars or more 5 years, 10 years down the road. And if that vision that takes you a decade to a decade and a half, let's say, into the future, with dollars invested today, what's my expectation of what those dollars are going to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now? If that gives you in your mind numbers that you can put down on paper and you can visualize, if that gives you a future that says that's 12% return, that's 15% return, that's 20% return, then you make that investment today. But if you're short-sighted, if your education and your mind doesn't allow you to expand and you're short-sighted and you're only looking at the next 12 months, well, in the next 12 months, trust me, the hole that you're standing in is going to be deeper than it is today. And that's a lack of education on people's parts, right? When Imam Talib was talking about his ability to, and his, I guess one of his co-investors, co-workers, their ability to go out to clients and raise money for different endeavors that they had. that particular type of vision and that particular kind of working relationship with people, that should be something that should be endemic to every part of our community. And that conversation that he had took me back many, many, many years, many more years than I care to remember. It reminds me how old I am. Of the little church that I grew up in, Mount Olive Baptist Church. And we had a building drive, and I think I was maybe 15 years old. So it's a long time ago. We had a building drive. So just like we do with masjids now, we want to expand the size of our sanctuary. We wanted to build on a multi-purpose facility, which we did with a kitchen that you could cook back there, that you could have little banquets and all that stuff and all that. Well, I grew up in such a small community that there were probably less than 3,000 African Americans in the entire community. And when you count the number of churches, African American churches, because we don't have a lot of churches. So it wasn't like any of these churches were huge. If there were a lot of people sitting in the pews on Sunday, in any of them. It was like 5 of them within a rock's throw distance from each other. So when you're going to do in that community, when you're going to do something big as an individual church, it's not coming from the people that sit in the pews. It's coming based on relationships that you have with the greater community. Right? So 95%, and I know this because they had made me a junior deacon at the time and I got to count money. 95% of every dollar that we raised came from outside our community. My mother personally, my mother was an LVN. My mother personally went to a wealthy lady, white woman, whose father's name was on the hospital that my mother worked in, D.M. Cogdell Memorial Hospital. She went to Miss Johnny Sue Cogdell Bowden and got Miss Johnny Sue to write a $15,000 check because of relationships. So this whole thing of building relationships outside of our community, and we amongst this is my own personal belief, just because of experience. We in our community, and basically because of Imam W.D. Muhammad, there is a level of acceptance and respect that we have with the greater community, that if we would act on that we could involve the greater business community, especially in expanding any efforts that we have in the communities that we serve. And I don't think that we have leveraged how respected the Imam was. I don't think we've leveraged it even 10% of what we could still to this day, 18 years roughly after he left us, that we could still get out of that relationship. We don't use it. Sister Khalidah, your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Alhamdulillah, Brother Edward, I resonate with what you were saying because my mother, we have a 501c3 at the masjid. But initially, we didn't have that. And we've always had a summer camp where the older sisters would come in and prepare the lunches. But as we expanded, we had, I guess the state came in to observe, and we had to stop serving out of our small kitchen. It's not small, but it's not a commercial kitchen. So we were not able to do that because we were bringing in children and we had a formal summer camp. And so they proposed to build that commercial kitchen. That was one of my mom's first goals because she as well, she serviced for over 25 years, the Salvation Army Women's and Children's Center. Her and a group of sisters, we go over there and work out at her commercial kitchen, but we provided the lunches on Saturdays for years and years. However, we never materialized our commercial kitchen as of yet. And I look back and I look at all the things that we did instead of it, like Mecca. Our men elevating, cultivating community advancement. They proposed to the trustee board, because I was on the trustee board at that time, the repavement of the parking lot, and which was good. It was needed, but it came first. And then it was we did a big playground. I think those funds were donated. We have a basketball court in the back, a playground, and we had a fence. But then somebody proposed a new fence, a big white picket fence around. So it's like we need structure, because everyone has these grandiose ideas, but definitely that commercial kitchen is still in effect because we still have, like, we're getting ready to have the school giveaways. We collaborate with the churches down the street, and we give out food, and we have cookouts and all those things that every community does. However, that's what I'm trying to convey here. We need structural leadership, because when leaders pass away, they need to have, we do have structure. And I know my father did train. He's not the only imam there, but he had 7 imams under him for over a decade, including Imam Rahman Khan. He came to him as a college student. He married him and his wife, Sister Nika, Imam Naeem Muhammad and his wife, Sister Michaela Muhammad, if you know them. Of course, Imam Ibn Mutakabir and Sister Aisha, who is the current imam, and they're like 40 something. But he's had several successful imams step up. But however, and Imam Nasif Majid's son, he's the newest one that became an imam a couple years back. So, but what I'm saying is that, excuse me, I was eating pretzels and they're too salty. But what I'm saying is that we have to organize and make sure that we are visiting these communities, because what I also have witnessed, I don't know if you know the brother Bashir. He was a politician. I think he got in trouble with the law. He was one of the people that were on the board that they were going to have start the building process on the land. Okay, it was him and a couple other immigrant brothers. They were putting the money forward. I had his book, but I don't know, you guys. He's an African American brother. His name is Bashir, but some kind of way that the authorities came for him or found a glitch somewhere, and he got in trouble with the law. So we didn't go with him. But for years, he hadn't gotten in trouble with the law. He was with these 2 other immigrant brothers, actually, or 3, that we're going to put the money forward to go ahead and build on the land. But again, back and forth, back and forth. Nobody could make a decision. So years went by. I know at least 5 years. And we didn't break ground. The CDC didn't break ground. We couldn't come to an agreement. We got people in strategic meetings getting ready to, get physical. We want to know where our money's going. There's territorialism. People are they're scared. They don't want to lose the community. And then the community is not coming out of anyone's pocket. We had a lot of people who give zakat, but we also have a lot of visitors. A lot of our, like I said, the multifaceted Jumals are very impactful. We have 2 brothers who give 10K every year. They're immigrant brothers, but they consider themselves part of our community. I won't say their name, but they're not looking for anything. They're not trying to take over. Brother Ferris, I know many of you know him, but they're like brothers. And what I also see now is, since it's still a population of the immigrant brothers strongly coming, but it's decreasing slowly. And so we have to build relationships, intergenerational relationships. We can't just think about IWDM. We can't be insecure that somebody's going to take us over. And as you said, network. Imam Rahman Khan was very good with networking with the greater community, Mecklenburg Ministries and other faith traditions. And he was a staple in a professional community. So he still comes back every now and then, but we need to find those people who can, have all of our masjids level up. We don't have a lot of time. One thing I learned from this is we never know when our time is up. And if there's no solid institutions that are focused on growing all of our communities, and we don't have a blueprint for that. We just have this overall vision of building new Africa, build the four pillars. We all have that, but we don't have the people who are effectively going to do it. Because otherwise, if you look around and see all these other organizations and businesses and faith traditions that are also striving to do what we're doing or have already done it, they wouldn't have gotten their buildings built either if they kept sending surveys around, arguing with one another, not understanding how to move forward and put things into practical application. So I know we love each other, but we have some structural internal concerns that we need to address, as well as the professional business part as well. And I'll stop there, inshallah.
So this is part of our kind of circular discussions that we have. Because we've been here at this particular point of what Sister Khalidah was just speaking of. We've been here so many times. And I personally, I would keep going back to their individual instances where these issues have already been resolved in a positive way. Imam Adam can speak positively about what happened in Fayetteville and the legal actions and protections that they put into place to make sure that their community was safe with all their buildings, lands, direction, all of those things. The lack of connectivity that we have as a community leads to a lot of that information not being shared, not being understood, and not being implemented in the way that it can be implemented in that particular jurisdiction. And I say that because North Carolina, certain laws and rules may be different in North Carolina than they are in the state of Maryland, than they are in the state of California, and so and so. But the entire intent and what you're trying to accomplish in the United States of America is not that different. So there might be a minute piece of state law that you have to adapt to somewhere. But the entirety of the federal law that you're acting under to protect your community and allow your community to accept funds from the outside, to accept funds from anybody, to do particular things without losing any institutional control over what goes on in your community. Those things are protected. And we have, correct me if I'm wrong, we have legal minds in our community that have the ability to work with any and all of our communities in instituting those types of practices and protections to make sure that all of our masjid communities are safe. We had that issue someone had mentioned earlier about, excuse me, a community closing down in Alabama. And God knows what's happened to that property, if they had property. Same thing happened here in the state of Texas with a masjid community in Tyler that had been running for 50, 60, 70 years. The imam passes away, someone I knew personally, who had held that community together for 35, 36 years. Nobody to step up. Community starts to drift apart. It's gone. What happened? Why wasn't there an assistant imam? Why wasn't there imams that were trained, 5, 6, 7, or 8 of them on a rotational basis, who could go on Friday, deliver a khutbah, deal with community issues and things like that, not putting it all on one person, but multiple people to take on that charge to keep that community going until the decision can be made as to finding either a permanent imam for that community, making whatever changes, upgrades to that community might be needed for somebody to be there in a permanent state, whatever the case may be. Where's the underpinnings of stability, sustainability in our communities as a whole, nationwide. It's not a great step from where we are to having that in place. You just can't make me believe that it's some step that is just it's too high for us to reach. I won't believe that. I just believe we don't talk to each other. And in some cases, we don't care enough to push for that. If you're self-satisfied in where you're at, you just look at your neighbor and go and tell them they need to get their act together. But you don't even tell them that. You just think it in your mind. You don't go help them. One of the things I absolutely loved when I became a first-time homeowner, lived in this nice little cul-de-sac community and little, your basic starter, your 3-bedroom, 2-bath little place. And I'm out there every Saturday, every weekend trying to make my yard look good. I'm a first-time homeowner. I want yard of the week and month or whatever and all that stuff. And I halfway know what I'm doing. I grew up in the desert. Didn't really have to worry about grass and beautification and all that kind of thing. I'm out there trying though. I had an African American neighbor, an older man across the street from me. And I think probably for about 2 weeks, he saw me out there laboring in the spring to get my yard beautified, cutting the grass, weeding, putting down weed killer, fertilizer, so on and so forth. And at the time, I had a lawnmower and not an edger. Do you know that man came across the street every week and edged my yard for me? And then he started educating me on different things I could do to beautify my yard. He had the same kind of grass in his yard that I had in mine. He found out this worked better than that, blah, 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 all of those things. For the 10 years I was there, he never stopped. Even when I got to the point I was using all the same products he was using and doing all these different things and basically mimicking him and taking care of the yard, he was still always there. I want to be that person. I want us in our communities to be that community to the next Islamic community, to all Islamic communities. But that takes communication and sharing. It takes absolutely caring, not just about yourself, but about what goes on across the street, down the street, round the corner. And I don't know, once or twice become a Jehovah's Witnesses and go throw up a masjid in a weekend, like they do with their kingdom halls. I don't know. But more connectivity and more caring. And I'll stop.
See, Michael, that means hand up, Mike.
Yes, sir. I agree with all that. And the two instances where masjids close for whatever reasons, that's a part of the growth process. And when we come to identify what were the factors, was the imam carrying the community for 30-something years on his back and not having the people internalize the message? Because there is a message in the Quran of obligation. The Sunnah prayers, Imam Muhammad told us, the Sunnah prayers show us that the individual has to be prepared to carry the responsibility for community life individually. The lessons of the Quran need to be taught in a way where the rubber meets the road. We had that spirit in the Nation of Islam. We were action oriented. And then a spirit came in, not all, but the spirit came in where we started becoming more insular. And I remember driving with my family, and I stopped off at the Atlanta Masjid. And the young leadership there, he's not there now. He was talking about a trip to Sudan. And the way he was sharing was like a travelogue, not making any connections with our community and our development, which, as he was sharing, I saw the similarities. But he was not making the connections where the rubber meet the road to inspire the audience of the Talim to see how Allah was working with us, like he worked with the Khartoum, with the Sudan, and the Mahdis or whatever they were called, that galvanized the communities there in the Sudan. And so, again, we have formal leadership and we have informal leadership, and more of the resourceful men and women have to take on a voice and identify one another and form strategy. I'm not a strategy person. I'm kind of like big picture, I'm more intuitive. But we have people that are strategic. They know how to go from step 1 to step 10. And we need to identify who we are, where we are. For the longest here in Jacksonville, as well as other places I've been, just to get an assessment of what the talents are in our uh, individual communities, our local community. An assessment. What do you do, and how do you do it? What kind of connections do you have? We need the analytical thinkers, uh, and some of this has to be done outside of the masjid. We complain about the loss of our youth from visiting there, but we don't have the environment to hold them, you know. So they're out in the world meeting the challenges of the world, building up those muscles. And I've seen how individuals come back after being out there in the world. I had when I was imam in Birmingham, we had two individuals from what's called the immigrant community come and help us. And one of them shared with me his story of just leaving the religion altogether. But when he came back, he was committed because of like the prodigal son. He was committed and do or die, kind of spirit after the experiences of being out in the world. So we just need to identify one another, what our skill sets are. And I heard Sister Anissa Dewan, I think that's her name. She gave a presentation, but the bottom line of it was we have to seek Allah's help to internalize a spirit where it's on us to do what needs to be done, but it's also on us to identify individuals, even outside of the masjid, especially outside of the masjid, that have a similar inclination towards what's right, and that really, we're called um, to be change makers. And when we conversate with those who are not Muslim outside, we should give them something that's going to help them to change for the better. And some of them will become Muslim. Some of them have become Muslim. Some of us have personal experiences with that, where our influence. And lastly, that's one of the ways Imam Muhammad told us that we are able to reproduce ourselves. He said that, passing on our energy, our spirit, and individuals identifying with that. And one Well, I want some of what Brother Michael has. I want some of what Imam Talib had, what Sister Khalidah had. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Whenever was talking about the communities planning for the future, I think that was a concept what he mentioned. The first thing that came to my mind, Talib has been talking about this. Graceline is talking about this. What are we saying? For the individual to plan for the future, right?
Correct.
Right.
Now, think about it. If the individual is not planning for his future family situation, and we're doing workshops on doing that, why would we expect that same individual to make those kind of plans for the growth and the development of our community?
You're right.
If they were already like that, we might as well
right.
fold up and go home.
That's right.
No, not go home, but go on.
Go on and do something else. So I'm saying that so we will quit expecting people to be like that.
Right.
Don't feel bad. They're not like that in the community life. They're not like that planning for the growth of our community. But guess
Right.
what? They ain't even like that in the individual life.
Right. Yep. Yep. Mm.
What Allah says in the
And
Quran.
that sums it all up.
So
Well,
don't be getting out of shape. It says, I think it says something. The growth of the community is the growth of a single soul, right?
Right.
That's right.
And a
right.
single soul ain't doing it, so the community ain't gonna do it.
That's right.
Planning for the growth, planning for where we should need to be.
So the solution is the permeability of the cell.
Yes.
It's
right?
in other words, it's in us.
It's in us. Now we've got to transfer.
Flame.
We got to transfer it to the next
We
person.
I guarantee you, if Tyler come online one day and says, okay, we've done workshops and I've done it and everybody got the message.
No, you can't ever assume that anybody got the message.
I'm saying,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Putting it on Tyler.
If Tyler tells us that,
yeah,
then we'll do different workshops to convert that to the community life. But that's the problem. We are not like that.
Right.
Too many of us are not like that. And people get frustrated in trying to deal with it, and they just let me move on and go somewhere else. I'm tired of, whatever. And I'm going through the same thing at the masjid here.
Yeah, you told me you're about to leave. You think about the masjid and the Democratic Party.
I'm giving up, right? No, I'm not leaving. But we had to just continue on and hope that, people get involved and pick up on it as a community and can move on. But, we just had to keep on until it catches on, until
we ain't got a choice, man.
no choice. And that was one message that Imam Irvin told me. And I think I talked about it Thursday. He told me when I sat down from being imam after being in battle, he said, Adam, do not leave the masjid. He said, do not do what I did. When he sat down, he said he went home for about 3 or 4 years. And he told me, don't make the same mistake I made. And I heard him and I sat on the floor. still sitting on the floor. Occasionally, I still get a cook bar against me. Okay,
Good luck.
but that's all right.
Yeah, no, I
Most
got
people they don't know who they're talking about, so I'm all right now.
Oh man. Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's not a sprint, that's for sure.
yeah, well, Allah says in the Quran that the life of a human being is like that of a plant. And if you know anything about plants, what you, patience is everything that you need in order to watch that grow. Watch it grow and develop.
Mhm.
It starts from a seed. Even if you just started from a seedling, you go to the nursery and get a little seedling and plant it. Our life is just like that. It needs the right nourishment, the sunshine, all those things that we need to be giving members of our community in order to help them grow. Now, I mean, and we're not going to be able to reach everybody, but I think our responsibility is to try to reach those that Allah intends on delivering this message. And I mean, a lot of times you'll see the fruits of your work. And I mean, I had a community that I led as its executive director, as well as one of its assistant imams. I've gone back to them maybe, I don't know, in the last couple of months. I've been there maybe 4 or 5 times. And every time I go back, they either show me or want to remind me of the handiwork that I left with them some 3, 4 years ago or more. But they haven't grown from that. And so now, I'm going back offering them something new. In other words, I'm offering them the next step. So when I saw that, or when I found out, they got these 2 acres that was donated to them, I'm going to do my best to try to help them to realize a vision that some are willing to admit they need. They like what I'm putting forth to them as something that they could realize and build on. But it's going to take a group effort. All the plants are going to have to be in a row. Everybody's going to have to come in pretty much at the same level. I mean, I look at a field of corn, and there may be 1 or 2 runts somewhere in the mix, but for the most part, all the corn is grown. All of it has its 7 ears, and it's and all the kernels seem to be intact. The whole, if you take an aerial view, the whole field seems level because all the plants are on the same level. Everybody got the same sunshine, the same water, the same nutrients, all the same care and love, and all of that has been realized. And that's how we need to approach our community. That's the patience we're gonna need. And like any garden, that you go in to till, it's going to produce some weeds, you know, and I remember an imam giving a talk one time, Jeffrey Ali, Bashir Ali's brother. He gave a talk one time and he was talking about weeds. And he told us, he said, you know, we get rid of them, but there's some benefit in them that we just haven't learned yet. But Allah says that He put everything on this earth as a benefit to us. So there's some value to weeds, but not in my garden. You're not going to choke off my plants, you know. But these are the types of things that's going to be the patience required in order to bring our people along, no matter how slow it's going to be. And it's going to be frustrating and oh man, you can even tell from some of my own speech. You know, I start either hesitate in using or start to use language that's inappropriate for the conversation. I mean, yes, it may get right to the point, but I need to find a way to express it that is a dignified expression. You know, so you know, I thank you all for waking me up to that fact. And you know, I've made some notes and I'm gonna have to work on these documents. If I'm a little slow in doing them, it's because I'm having some computer issues. I do a lot of stuff in Microsoft Word, and they change some of their security protocols, and I'm supposed to download something. And, you know, right now, all of my documents that I have I can see them, I can read them, I can print them out, but I can't edit them. And I've actually purchased Microsoft. So I'm not on a subscription basis or anything like that. So I got to try to get that straight. In the meantime, I am looking for workarounds. And I think I found one that, and hopefully they don't have any kind of algorithms that's going to block it. But I have, I've been able to, I created a document in a PDF, and now I want my son to give me access to his Acrobat reader that has the ability to convert PDFs into a document that I can then edit. And if I can do that, then those documents that I'm going to need and those that I'm going to create until I can get my stuff straight will no longer be an impediment. Because I've got at least 3 clients I can think of off the top of my head. I'm ready to get them their final documents, but you know, I've got to do some final edits on it and can't do it. So, but this other document I was telling us about, I'm going to create that in a different format other than Word, and I want to get it out to us so that you all can at least begin to appreciate the process that I'm following. And if you want to add to it as you did today, you know, let's do that, because Khalidah mentioned something that I want to add to it when she talked about getting a land inventory. Well, part of that land inventory, and I put it in the chat just to kind of remind myself, part of that land inventory is knowing how that land is zoned. So just because you can have acres and acres of land, but if it's not zoned to do what it is you want to do, then there's a process that you're gonna have to go through in order to get that in order to get that property zoned to do certain things. So one of the examples was a cemetery. Well, you can't just put a cemetery on land just because you own it. There's at least that's my understanding now. In some states, maybe you have that wide latitude to do that. But in most municipalities I'm aware of, your land needs to be zoned in order to put put warehouses on it, or put commercial property on it, or put a cemetery on it, even to be able to build a masjid on it. So it's those types of things, and expanding the commercial kitchen idea to make sure that we have people who are able to take over when other people leave or become sick. That we have multiple people who are knowledgeable and trained in refrigeration and HVACs, and how to repair the freezers and refrigerators, because you all may not have thought of it, but the next time you in the store, look at the freezers and refrigerators where they've placed towels underneath of them, because the condensation, the condensation pipe may be stopped up, all right, and water is now dripping out, or a freezer section is closed because the freezer unit has gone out. Well, those things happen when you have a store or you have a commercial kitchen. There are many places that have 24-hour contracts that they pay for on a monthly basis, and they only become useful when those units go out. So I thank you for some of those additions that you all have left me with. I had a warning about 10-15 minutes ago that door was coming in, and my smartphone just called the Adan. So I'm going to respond to that, and I'm going to sign off for now, but inshallah, I will, let me see, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, I should be on next Sunday, inshallah. I'm going to be up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, for Friday and Saturday. I'm leaving first thing Friday, I think somewhere around 6:30 in the morning, and I'm catching the last flight out on Saturday. I'm going up to a I would tell you it's going to be a memorial service for a good friend of mine over the last, I don't know, maybe almost 40 years. He was one of the lieutenants in the vice lords, and Allah called him home. Sharif Willis was his name. So I'm going up for that, but I should be back by Sunday. And the plan is to go to Juma at Masjid an-Nur in Minneapolis. I think it's Imam, is it Makram El-Amin?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know him, Michael?
Not personally. I've
Okay.
been in I've been in rooms with him and I see him on the internet.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's where I'm going to be Friday, inshallah. So, but in any event, I appreciate all of you that's on the call now and those that intended to be here as well as those that had to leave. I know Omar had to leave, and I missed Imam Tariq today. So he must have had some other business like I had last week. So I will leave you with my salams. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam.
Inshallah, I'll see you
Salam,
all.
brother.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah. So, Michael, your hand is up as well as Sister Khalidah.
Khalidah can go first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, alhamdulillah, Imam Talib hit on so many different things, and I was grateful that he mentioned about the zoning. If you have someone who's been on city council, Imam Nasif Majid, he was our go-to person for that, and it took him years. Again, and with Brother Rabbani, they did get finally the graveyard approved, and part of that, as they said, was that you can't build anything else on that, so they got to find a good spot for it. But also just going back and forth, which with what can be built where on the land, where the water receptacles are and things, different things like that for the bathrooms and the sinks. So I know that it's not just simple ABC. However, just to be studious and to keep working forward toward that goal. I just really quickly wanted to mention some other hindering factors from community growth and development that I've noticed not just at our masjid, but in general. Many of us have had several new shahadas. And one of the things that we talked about, Imam Ibn had been very adamant about the retention rate. So he said for about every 10, I believe he said we retain about 2. And most of them are sisters that they come back. But he also mentioned the fact that they have like people who are a part of our masjid, but they come and visit. But they have people who are encouraging them to go to other masjids that are not IWDM masjids. And they have this misnomer or this understanding that we are not really Muslim. We don't really follow some of them that don't really know us. The Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, they're on the outside looking in. But I just wanted to remind us to maximize our Islamic etiquette, encourage your members of your community to read Quran daily, whether it's in English or Arabic, but know what it means in English if you don't know what it means in Arabic, and put it into practical application, because the backbiting, the sitting around chatting amongst people who you think are a part of your community, or even new, innocent new believers, when they see that type of behavior, it's the same thing that's out in the street. So they are not, they don't want to be a part of that. They're striving to change their lives. And even though that doesn't make the person bad, maybe they're having a bad day and they're voicing something that happened to them, but just be conscientious of the people who are in your community, and make sure that you are modeling what a Muslim is supposed to be like. And another thing I wanted to, I remembered my father saying that they send implants into our community. So sometimes that opposition in those strategic planning meetings are not just from amongst us. They may look like us, but they are sent in to disrupt progress like they did back in the nation and back in the time of Imam Wafdi Muhammad Rahim Allah alayhi. So that's why it's very good, as Brother Edward said, to have that strong communication and make sure you know who is who, and not feed into excessive over analysis with somebody who's just coming every now and then when you're getting ready to make a big move. They could be somebody who's just and that implant from the outside trying to stagnate the community. And last but not least, I wanted to also reference, I said something about the Sunni. They're good people. They come to all our events. But I wanted to reference building those relationships with those other imams. I know we had excellent relationships with this particular imam who's built and expanded a new mosque called the Pillars Mosque. It's beautiful. They have a beautiful library, which the vision we have for IWDM, and they have a beautiful nature walk and landscape, and just a beautiful masjid with different classrooms. But they have a different. Imam John Elder, I think he originally came from New York, but they had several transitions with imams from the immigrant community. But he's currently back and he's in that leadership position. But he had such a strong relationship with my father, Imam Khalil Akbar. Not only that, knew him for years. So he recently told Ibn that he hears the talk. They came to him. The people that are butterflies that go from one community to the next, they're not really in a community or committed to any community, mashallah, have at it. But don't badmouth, because he came back to Ibn and said he had to correct them. They were saying that we weren't Muslim. Like I said, we don't know the deen. They're not Sunnah. Looking for things to undermine Imam Murphy Muhammad community. But when you build those relationships and people know who you really are, they can stand up. So the solution is they decided to collaborate and bring the communities together. Ibn's going to be taking busloads of people to the different masjids in Charlotte, and they're going to be doing the same thing. And so that interaction and clear up those misnomers, even the way we make prayer and they salam out sometimes to the right, to the left first and then the right, those little idiosyncrasies like the abayas, the women aren't covered, our necks are not covered. They look at that as we don't know how to cover it properly. So just keep that in mind and address it. I think it's a cultural thing, some of it, but explain it so that it's not something that's taboo and we're looked down upon or we look down upon them, and just focus on one human family. And thank you so much I learned so much from you guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Yes, I just want to support what Brother Edward mentioned, and I'll express it this way. We're not getting we're not getting as much utility from the knowledge body and the spirit of Imam Muhammad as we should. There are too many with the idea that think, okay, he brought us this far and that we could just proceed. Allah gave us Imam Muhammad coming through that strange way of coming to the worldwide deen of al-Islam, coming through the nation of Islam. Allah gave us that legacy, and that legacy, gave us certain qualities. And I'm reminded of what the Quran says in terms of most of the people don't know. This is what Allah says of the people. For whatever reasons, there may be those that don't want to know. There may be those that have learning challenges and so on and so traumatic experiences that cause them to see themselves and the world differently. Various, circumstances. And we're going to have those internal challenges and I'll say enemies, that they're not there for good purposes. They're in there to try to bring down the efforts. But all of this is a part of the challenge that we have before us. And when we begin to trust people that have shown through their actions and their commitment, when we begin to trust those that are connected with more than just their own understanding, and they are aware that what we've been given in the knowledge body is something that doesn't come along every day. Leadership and the type of expression that it's been given does not come along every day. And sometimes we're so close to it that we don't see how what we've been given is enough to sustain us if we apply it to sustain us going on into the future. But there are too many that are not connected with it, that they just don't know. And if you listen to what's that saying, when the blind lead the blind, they're both going to the ditch. And that's a cautionary saying, and we know that people have vision by their works and their are those that can tickle our ear, but those that have real vision, uh, their expression reaches our soul, that part of our soul that uh, has the common sense to understand that this is reasoning, this is logic that is sound. And I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Very good,
Assalamu
everybody.
alaikum. I someone say one thing with this is
Alaikum assalam.
directed to Sister Khalidah in reference to the masjid in Greenville. And during our imam meeting, we have these state imams, we have meetings, and probably about 10 years ago, we found out that the land that they bought doesn't perk. Y'all know what that means? Edward, Michael?
I've
That's a
heard
new
that.
that's
I've heard that
a new
saying.
one on me.
Yeah.
That's a new one on
In
me.
other
I haven't
words,
heard that.
yeah, the land, when it says doesn't perk, when it rains, it doesn't seep into the ground.
Right, it does. It floods. Yeah,
It
yeah.
floods.
Uh-huh.
So when they bought the land, that knowledge wasn't known by them. So because
Can
it
I
doesn't
stop you
perk
real
crop,
quick? Can I stop you real quick on that?
yeah,
When you buy when you buy property,
hmm
doesn't the appraiser typically have to give you a complete history of that land and everything that's known about that land and that valuation?
they
I
should.
mean, wouldn't that have been included, like, drainage issues, so on
It
and so
should.
forth?
It should have.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm saying because of that, they can't build on it. If you know, if you've been to, I don't know if anybody's been to Greenville. In the front part of the land near the street, when you go off the street, there's a trailer building, a double wide, big one. That is actually where they worship at. But it's a lot of land. This land goes way back, and that's one of the reasons why they never built on it. So, uh,
Okay. Another quick question, because this just blows my mind.
uh,
What was the zoning on it when they bought it?
now I don't know that, but it's not in the city limits.
Okay. Okay.
I,
Unincorporated
I'm not sure of all
property,
the
probably.
nuances of it, but it's not in
Okay.
the city limits. So we dealt with that. I don't want to think that they're just buying the land and no plans or whatever, but you got to know the full story, and before assumptions can be made about what they can or what they can't do. And I'll stop right there.
That is a very interesting situation. I did not know that myself. I knew about the land purchase. I knew about some past efforts that they had had to do certain things, but I had no clue that where I grew up in West Texas, I've never heard the term perk, but because of the desert-like conditions and the clay, the
Hmm
way what the land is. I mean, and when we're talking water table, we measure water table out there in inches, like 2 or 3 inches water table, right? I mean, it's like hard pack. It's like being on the moon.
hmm
So water just runs. It doesn't get into the ground. It just runs and runs and runs. So that's why you have these huge expanses. I guess this is my assumption now, because I never really got into this. That's why you have these huge distances between any kind of structures out there and no effort to build. Because yeah, I mean, you can have a flash flood. Where I grew up, you can have a flash flood in a matter of 15 minutes
hmm
because there's just nowhere for the water to go. So there's now I know this you don't know the answer to this, but this is just one of those things that's running around in my head. They now own all of this land that they can't build on. Of what type of remediation activities they can do to like, building, going underground and putting in, I don't know, what are the culverts or whatever to direct water underground to be then sent off somewhere else. And I know that that would be very expensive to do that. I'm just,
And that's the problem. The land goes way back away from the street road, right?
mm-hmm.
So in order to build on it, you had to, you know, you would either have to run a pipe from
Yeah,
the road all the way back.
right.
Now, if
Probably
we're
more
talking
than
about
one.
building a community where you can subdivide and you can allocate the cost of that construction to
Mm-hmm.
each lot, that's one thing.
Right.
But to fund the whole thing on building the masjid, that's another thing.
That's
Because
right.
it's not, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So why don't they subdivide it and build homes?
Now, don't get me wrong, I haven't been that
No, I mean, I'm
involved.
just
I,
that makes sense to me.
but I'm just sharing with you history on
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can tell you they would love to build their own masjid. They would love to do that because
And that's
while they
where,
were there, while they've been there, we built one, and they built, Charlotte has built one. Is talking expanding on that. Raleigh's trying to build one. Wilmington is building one, but they're trying to get it to where it's open. Uh, so they would love to. I know you, man, Charles, and
Well, they should build and sell homes and use the proceeds to buy
yeah,
land somewhere else and build a masjid.
yeah. The lack of knowledge is the issue. We suffer from what we don't know uh, in so many different areas, and so losses and setbacks that we have, we have to count that as a part of the process in
yes.
in in, in learning how to build community life. And so, you know, again, this is my thinking. The public, I'm talking about the people that come in and sit on the floors, the general public, has to have an education to direct their spirit and their energies. How many places get, and I'm not just talking about, well, Imam Muhammad says this about economics and, just calling on Imam Muhammad's name or reading his book on, but actual uh, speaking to the community in terms of what God says that we are there's a look, the book says no compulsion, but once you accept that this is the life that I want, there are obligations, not just to the group, but Allah says your own souls obligate you, you know, and getting that kind of rubber meet the road information, the citizens have to. In fact, Imam Muhammad told us, look, you have good businessmen and women, and you don't support them, Allah will punish you. That's how serious it is. If you don't support those people in business, that's worthy of punishment because there's an obligation. The community can't grow unless the public sees that I have certain needs, and I want those needs to come from my group, from my community. And so I should identify, those who have, I'm not talking about just any Muslims, because in Birmingham and other places where I live, you've got these Muslims that identify as Muslims, but they're doing haram things in business,
Well,
and we have,
that's all over. That's just not.
yeah, yeah.
They
So,
got them around here too.
yeah. So, we have to be selective in terms of just because they wear the name Muslim doesn't mean we support them. But I mentioned good businessmen and women. There's an obligation. and then, being told why we're obligated. Again, knowledge is so important, not just knowledge of the Quran, but knowledge in terms of how community life is supposed to operate. There's certain values that you have to have in common, and you be willing to give your life for those values. That's just how valuable they are. And that kind of what do you call it? Critical thinking and critical focus on those essentials are necessary. And I'll stop with that.
I'm just to piggyback on what you're constantly saying about the businessman needs to make the Quran his partner. Just on what you said, the Imam said, our biggest problem isn't necessarily them making the Quran the partner. The customer need to make the Quran its guide.
That's my point. Yes,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
it.
That's the biggest problem we got.
And that's because leadership is not putting that obligation on us.
Yeah, you're right. They should make that part of the Cookbook every Friday.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Because
Inshallah.
what happens is the discomfort of failure will make us, those that have the moving in them will move. There's some just not gonna move. But
Well,
winners don't like losing, okay? And it's not about numbers.
unless they resign to the discomfort and become comfortable with the discomfort. Brother, we've been this way for over 400 years, brother. And becoming Muslim hasn't had the effect on it that it should.
Well, I've seen, uh, that principle of migration, adapt or migrate. Some have been forced to migrate. Some have been killed. I mean, it's just not a static. This is a dynamic that's going on. You know,
Mm,
some have had to move towards better circumstances.
mm,
I know the Khan family. You know, uh, we called him Lieutenant Chris, but Ali Khan, may Allah forgive him and grant him paradise, was my lieutenant in the first resurrection.
mhm.
And people move on because of better opportunities and so forth, and we lose. That happened when uh, when opportunities opened up for integration, and we were free to move about more freely. Many people chose to move on to better circumstances, and the community left behind lost that strength. And it's been chronicled and talked about. When we all had to live together, we got the benefit of that, of the more educated, the more disciplined. Uh, their strength helped to strengthen us. But when they got opportunities to move into the broader community, we lost that, and it's been chronicled.
Now,
I just heard Omar talk about it.
what they found out, brother, the education they got has had them thinking they were white.
Many of them, yes,
So anyway, I'm gonna get
yeah,
ready to
alhamdulillah.
if you know if
It's your
Molly,
time, brother. Your
yeah,
time has passed.
I got to go
Why,
make
why don't
salat
you
too, brother.
close us out, and then we'll all go and hopefully communicate with each other in this coming week.
Alhamdulillah. As we think about our obligation to Allah and ask Allah, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. Oh Allah, give us the best benefits in this life and the best benefits of life to come, and save us from the torment of the hellfire. Ameen.
I mean, thank you all. Contributions were incredibly wonderful today. Learned a
Thank you.
lot myself. Thank you.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum. Wa alaikum
Wa alaikum
salam.
assalam.